to the award-winning Rick Amato Show, presented by the Washington Times. The Rick Amato Show. Irreverent, informative, interactive. Online at AmatoTalk.com and on air at 1170 KCBQ.
This is TJ O'Hara, the Common Sense Czar, filling in for Rick Amato tonight. And we have another great show for you, joined by Scot Faulkner, author of Naked Emperors, renowned business consultant, former key member of the Reagan White House, and now executive director of the Dreyfus Initiative. He has articles published in the New York Times, the Washington Times, various different business publications. He's appeared on Bloomberg, CBS News, CNN, C-SPAN, Fox, NPR, PBS, VOA, and any other combination of letters you can probably put together. He's a corporate advisor on strategic change and leadership, and he's worked with governments and corporations in emerging economies. Now, along with that, National Personnel Director for the 1980 Reagan-Bush campaign. He was part of the presidential transition team and served as a member of President Reagan's White House staff. Served in executive positions with the FAA, the GSA, and the Peace Corps, and more recently served as the very first Chief Administrative Officer of the United States House of Representatives, where he was responsible for all non-legislative operations, including a $1 billion budget and 14,000 employees. His business-based reforms saved $148 million in that position and became the operational model for 44 different national parliaments around the world. His approach has been named as one of the top 100 innovations in American government by the Ford Foundation and Harvard University. Americans for Tax Reform named Scott an outstanding member of Congress. He's received 26 management awards, 4 presidential letters of commendation, and he has the distinct privilege of being on our show tonight. So welcome to the show, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Hey, what do you do in your spare time?
Actually, I read a lot of history books.
I can imagine. Now, in your new role as executive director for the Dreyfus Initiative, I had the opportunity to speak with you a little bit last Friday, but we didn't really get into that more deeply. Tell us how you came to the Dreyfus Initiative and more about what that initiative is about.
Okay, thank you. I have been, just like Richard Dreyfuss, concerned about our civic culture for many, many years. In my case, one of the epiphany moments came when I was CAO of the House, and that was when George White, who just recently passed, he was the architect of the Capitol. He and I sat down in the summer of 1996 to plan the National Capitol Visitors Center, which is now a very large underground complex that all 2 million plus visitors to the Capitol go through to get oriented before they go into the Capitol building itself. And the main reason we did it, because this is back before 9/11 and security concerns, was that we found that normal Americans were coming into the Capitol building and asking where the Oval Office was and wondering why there were 2 wings to the building. So we were realizing that for Americans to fully appreciate the temple of democracy that they were walking into, they had to learn literally democracy 101 before they could enter into the Capitol itself. And so over the years from then on, I did a lot of writing and a lot of speaking myself on civic education. Richard and I both have a long love of history and historic preservation, and we sit on a number of panels together. And so it was through that relationship that we became friends, and he reached out to me to join him in this crusade.
Now, were you and Richard immediately in alignment politically?
We were certainly immediately in alignment on the foundational aspects of who we are as a country, why we are as a country, and what needed to be done, and the scope and crisis-level proportions of this challenge we have to rebuilding our civic culture. Certainly politically, Richard comes from a different part of the political spectrum than I do, but we are both been moving toward the center in terms of recognizing that neither end of the spectrum has all the answers, and neither end of the spectrum should be fully demonized.
You know, I think that's one of the things I appreciate the very most. As you know, I'm working very hard to try and create an army of informed voters and helping people make informed decisions. And that's what I see has evolved in the Dreyfus Initiative. So in moving forward, I want to make sure that our audience is clear. If they didn't have the opportunity to chat with Richard when he was in studio on Friday, there may have been some confusion as to whether the Dreyfus Initiative is setting up a separate school or trying to return civics to the curriculum. Can you share with the audience?
What we're really doing is creating curriculum enhancement. We are working through every place where education is occurring in terms of the kindergarten through 12th grade, and that means the public schools, where most people are, but also private parochial schools, charter schools, even home schools. The key is that where civics is being taught, we're not really teaching true citizenship, and that's a combination of the facts of governing, but also the skills of governing. And what does that mean? It means that, just like you're mentioning about an educated voter, that people, when they reach the age of 18 and go and hopefully register to vote, they should not only know the facts of that U.S. senators serve 6 years, we have 3 branches of government and those things, but they also should understand how to think critically, how to separate fact from fiction and fact from opinion, how to share public space with those they disagree with, how to think clearly but also communicate clearly, how to bring integrity and ethics and ultimately accountability into the public sector. And all those things are human, really lifelong skills that can be used anywhere, not just simply citizen skills, but which means an effective adult becomes an effective citizen.
You know, when I look at what has happened in our educational system, it's such a critical void that the Dreyfus Initiative is trying to fill. Can you give us a place we can go for additional information on the initiative?
Absolutely. The www.thedreyfusinitiative.org. And
Excellent.
we have our website currently gives some very broad descriptions of our programs as well as the need for these programs. Within the next month, we'll be introducing a new website that'll be even more interactive and provide even more detail on our programs.
But people shouldn't wait until that new website is up.
There's already in our current website, if you go into what you do and what you can do in a drop-down menu, there's a lot of helpful hints which we've drawn from successful citizen activists from around the country in terms of what you can do as an individual right now to improve the civic culture of your own community, what you as a educator can do in your classroom, what you as a public official can do, and what you as a journalist can do. So we have 4 categories of best practices drawn from real-life experiences. There's even some web links there.
And, Scott, give me some examples of what we can do as just average citizens.
I think the first thing is demand full transparency. It's amazing how many places, we have something like 3,500 counties in the country and tens of thousands of towns and cities and unincorporated towns, and how many public documents, the minutes for public meetings, we're talking not just the town councils or the state legislatures, but the planning commissions, the zoning commissions, the water commissions, the school boards, things that really impact everybody on a day-to-day basis and their children on a day-to-day basis. It's almost impossible to find that information. What happened, when the next meeting is, what the agenda is for the next meeting, and how people can participate and what issues they may want to actually voice their opinion on. And so something that basic is a huge revolution in accountability and engagement in a community.
That's a great point. Well, we're talking with Scot Faulkner, Executive Director for the Dreyfus Initiative, and we'll be back in a moment with more with Scot Faulkner and maybe get in a little bit about the debacle in D.C.